So now we are going to be talking about the slope of a line segment. So if you remember, slope is an incline, so either a line that's going up or a line that's going down. And how we find the slope is that we need 2 points. And we need to talk about the change in the x values. This triangle here means change when we're talking linear algebra, which is x2 minus x1, and the change in the y values, which is what that triangle means. So point A is 2 and 6, so we label x1, y1, x2, y2. Point A is 2 and 6, and point B is 3, negative 5. What is the change in the x-coordinate from point A to point B? So, change in x, that's what that triangle means x2 minus x1, which gives me, if I look, x2 is 3, x1 is 2, so the change in x is 1. What is the change in the y-coordinate? Well, change in y is equal to y2 minus y1. And if we look here, the y2 is negative 5, and I'm subtracting 6, which gives me an answer of negative 11. So the change in y is negative 11. Slope of a line, which is also called the rate of change, so I can use both terms on a test, is determined using the following formula, and this formula is super important. Slope, which is A, is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is basically like saying rise over run. Okay, our y values go up and down the y-axis, and then run is the x values on the x-axis. So we're going to do a couple of examples. The slope of segment AB, whose endpoints are A, 1, 6, and B, negative 7, 12. So we're going to label x1, y1, x2, y2, because they are the first ones mentioned and the second ones mentioned in the question. How are we going to calculate slope? Slope, which is A, is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Always put your general formula in because you're showing me your work. That is equal to y2, which is 12, minus 6 over negative 7 minus 1. So we get an answer of 6 over negative 8. Now, that's not my final answer because I can reduce. Always ask yourself if you can reduce, and we can by 2. So it becomes 3 over negative 4. That is my slope, which means that if I were to graph this, it would look something like this. If I started at the origin, I'd go down 3 over 4, positive, rise over run. That's my point. So down 3 and over 4, so it's a negative slope. Okay, so that is my line. So I'm doing down negative 3 and positive 4. My rise over run, that is my slope. Always keep your slopes in fraction form, people. Even if you put it in decimal, it's harder to graph a decimal than it is to have our rise over run in a fraction. So let's talk about distance formula. The length of any line segment is expressed by a positive number. Why is it a positive number? Because you never take the square root of a negative number. So distance is always positive. The distance between point A and point B is calculated using the following formula. It's always a good idea to label your coordinates. Distance is equal to the square root of y2 minus y1 squared plus x2 minus x1 squared. That's your formula that you should be putting on your memory aid, because you will not remember it. So we are going to, I'm allowed to do this, we are going to calculate the distance between A and B. So the first thing that we need to do is the point for A is negative 3 and 4, and the coordinate for B is 4 and 1. So then we label them. So this is going to be my x1 and my y1. This is going to be my x2 and my y2. And I put it in my formula. Distance AB, right? Always put the segment that you're doing distance for. Distance AB is equal to y2, which is 1 minus 4 squared, plus x2, which is 4 minus negative 3 squared. Distance AB is equal to the square root of 9 plus 49. Distance between AB is equal to the square root of 58, which gives us approximately 7.62 units. Now, because I didn't give us a unit of measurement, like meters or kilometers, you always enter with units. Okay, always use your official unit of measure unless it's not given. If it's not given, you use units. So let's do another example. A line segment has endpoints at -7, so this is my x1, y1, and -4, and my x2, y2, which is 3 and 6. Find the length of the line segment and round to the nearest hundredth. Hundredth means 2 decimal places. Because there are 2 zeros in 100, it means 2 places after the decimal. All right, so let's look back up here. Look at our distance formula. So we have distance between, so distance of line segment, distance is equal to, let's write our formula, y2 minus y1 squared plus x2 minus x1 squared. So let's put them into our problem, into our equation. So y2 is 6 minus y1, which is -4. I add that to x2, which is 3, minus -7 squared. So I get an answer of 100 plus 100. So what's the square root of 200? Which gives me approximately 14.14 units. I haven't been given kilometers or meters or a unit of measurement, so I use units. Nearest hundredth, 2 decimal places, right here. And that's my final answer. Remember, please, put somewhere, you can't, it is impossible to square root a negative. So just to try, if you put -10, the square root of -10 in your calculator, you're going to get an error domain. You cannot do this. It does not work. And that will be the end of our distance notes for today. Next video, point of division.